the town where the jazz is swinging high. It's the New Orleans Outsider with Chris Goff, my oh my. We may be outsiders, but our love for New Orleans is true. So come along as I share it all with you. Sights and sounds, food and drinks. We're here to take a ride with New Orleans Outsider as our guide.
And here are your hosts, Chris Goff, Peter Newkirch, and Justin Appleberry.
Well, we go to a lot of events in New Orleans throughout the history of our love of the city, but I mean, maybe the biggest event of all happened just this past February. It was the Super Bowl. It was the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, February 9th, 2025. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome to NOLA Outsider. I'm Chris, along with Peter and Justin. And we wanted to divert from our normal talking about a restaurant or a bar. And we wanted to talk about an experience we had going to the Super Bowl this past year in New Orleans. Now, as we've discussed, we're Chiefs fans here, of course. Chiefs going for a three-peat this year in New Orleans. So it was a big deal for us. Plus, obviously, it's in our favorite city. So a lot of talk of, hey, we should go do that. But Justin, Peter's going to ask some questions on this because he didn't get to go to this. But Justin, I'm going to start you off with what was your? We were just discussing. We were planning on going to the Super Bowl. By the way, there was 10 Super Bowls in New Orleans all time. That is tied with Miami as the most ever in this town. Obviously, New Orleans is a great town to have a Super Bowl in because of the walking capability of the town. But Justin, we were talking about doing this a whole calendar and a half before we even got to the damn game.
Yeah, the Chiefs haven't even repeated, but when we booked our tickets for the Super Bowl, so I think it was around Thanksgiving, maybe. So the playoffs are about ready to start. So that'd be 2023. So November, December 2023.
Yep.
And our friend Jeremy Wyatt, we are all on a message thing together, and he's like, hey guys, I just looked at the haunted hotel, the place we like to stay. And he's like, they're taking reservations for the Super Bowl next year. How wild would it be just to kind of go down there and be in the city that we all love and experience the Super Bowl? And how cool would it be if the Chiefs actually went there when we were there? Like, oh yeah. So we started kind of just talking back and forth about it. And then I think, Goff, you're like, man, we should probably just book it because, the key point is they haven't raised their rates yet to the Super Bowl rates. It was still that nice sweet spot of the haunted hotel rate. So like we could get in for the X amount that it is. So we went back and forth, and then I think you had the exact date there, Goffer, when we booked the hotel rooms.
Yeah, we booked it in I don't have the exact date, but it was December of 2023. And what was interesting is like the way it went down is you're the only part that was not right of what you just said was that I distinctly remember when we were like, hey, it'd be really cool to go to Las Vegas for the Super Bowl to see him go back to back. But at that point, the prices were crazy. It's the first one at the brand new Vegas, stadium. We're like, man, there's no way. I mean, Vegas is obviously just outrageously expensive on a normal day a lot of times. So on Super Bowl weekend, it's going to be horrible. So we started, hey, next year, what Jeremy Wyatt said, next year it's in New Orleans. So let's look. And so I remember specifically pulling up Expedia, and we're talking like, I don't know, 15 months before the actual game. And it's like either things aren't on sale or things were like $1,000+ a night. We're like, oh man. And then someone suggested, or I don't know if I thought of it or one of you guys said like, well, what about the place you normally stay at? And I remember going there and excuse me, the good thing about New Orleans is, they are not corporate for the most part. I mean, you've stayed at like some of the chain places there, and I have too. But when you get down there to the mom and pop places, they're not necessarily on top of things as far as like, oh yeah, there's a huge event coming in a year and a half. So it was great because like you said, we went to the website, and I think at the time the rooms for that weekend, which was we were like basically coming down the February 7th of 25 and then leaving February 10th. I think the room rate was like $165, $175 a night.
Yeah.
So they have an awesome cancellation thing where it's basically you get like 48 hours before, and we all booked it because we were like, hey, we don't even know if the Chiefs are going to win back to back, but if they're going for a three-peat, we're going to do it. And then as we saw, Chiefs win their second Super Bowl, and we end up saying, hey, we can go. But, Peter, did you have any desire to I know the answer to this before I'm asking, but I want to hear your response to this. Would you ever want to go to a Super Bowl anywhere, let alone New Orleans?
No.
Straight and to the point.
Yeah.
I will say I agree with you about the privately owned, we've talked about the restaurants and even the museums and the bars and the hotels are right there. And it does make a difference down there. It's one of those cities that has a large, still privately owned that profession. And it is great. And I really respect that hotel for not coming back to you guys and going, yeah, well, so we canceled you guys. And if you want to rebook, it's going to be this rate.
Oh, that was our biggest fear. We kept going, oh, they're going to change it on us. They're going to email us and tell us it's $800 a night now. And they didn't, and they didn't, and they didn't. And you're just sitting there waiting. Like you're waiting for that email and you're waiting for that call, but they never did.
It was cool to, to basically going back to your point in general, I think one of the reasons I overlook this a lot when people tell me, list the reasons why I like New Orleans. You hit it on the head. It's like the mom and pop flair down there is like, now cynical me thinks, oh, it's all just shell companies that are it's really corporations that own all these things, but it's really, they have some like front people that aren't that. Maybe that's the case. I don't know, but they fool me because it seems like it's owned by a bunch of people around there that own bars, they own hotels, and obviously you got to have some money to own places like that. As we know, our friends at Fritzl's, they come from Greece. They own a really nice Greek restaurant, the Athenian Grill on Decatur. They own Fritzl's. Right there is probably, I don't know, $20 million. I don't know what that is, but it's like, yeah, it's cool that you can go to that town and have so many, options there. The only thing that sucks about some of these little mom and pop places is if you do try to book a room that far in advance, or in general, they have the refundable and the non-refundable rates. And the Haunted Hotel has not done that yet, where it's like you can book it now. You don't have to put any money down, nominal fee, maybe 10%, 20%. And then you can cancel up to like 2 days before. And yes, as you guys said, like we're ticking down time and we're like, I'm asking my wife, who's a lawyer, I'm like, hey, is there any, can they do that? Can they say, hey, you guys fooled us. We had our pants down. We didn't know, we're going to cancel you. You can rebook them at $500 a night, but you're not going to get that rate. And they never did that. And she said they technically could do that, I think, but I mean, they could, it's up for debate on whether it's legal. So if you really wanted to go through with any kind of, not that I'm going to sue them or something, but I'm like, can they legally do that? I don't really know if they have like a waiver for that on their site, to be honest with you, but they didn't do it, so it didn't matter. But that was a big fear for a while. We kept looking every day.
Yeah. Every day you're waiting for that email. Like, oh, here it comes. Here it comes.
I think like the anticipation to go into the Super Bowl though is pretty, it's one of those things, Peter, and you can relate to this. Same reason you want to go to a Super Bowl anyway, is like, I want to see the Chiefs. The historical sports fan of me wants to go down to New Orleans and be there for a Super Bowl and have the three-peat and have all this like awesome side of it and have this story to tell. Cause I got Justin in my ear, like, come on, just go, and I'm like, and my wife and I are like, God, I don't know. Cause we had just gone down over Christmas, New Year's. And that's when that terrorist attack had happened. The Sugar Bowl gets messed up or whatever.
Right, yeah, you were there for that.
And so it's sort of like
you were like a block away from it.
Yeah, I mean, literally could hear that take place. So you're like, are they going to even be ready for it security wise? Of course, they threw everything into it, and they knew they had to be 1,000% ready at that point after that happened in January. But we're like, do we really want to? It's the same reason why I don't really want to go back to French Quarter Fest. I don't want to go back to 1 trillion people there, especially if half of them are going to be very annoying Eagles fans. Okay.
Yeah, that was the other part, Pete, where like we'd wake up every day waiting for that email, but then also me and Wyatt would have to hear Goff saying, I don't know, guys. I don't think we're going to go. I think I'm going to cancel. I've got the refundable this, and we're probably not going to go. And I'm like, dude, you're going. Just you're going. Just
the points were so damn high. The damn plane points were high. I mean, it was expensive. It's expensive.
He likes to psych himself up into it.
Oh yeah, he's like, we're not going. This is going to suck. I don't want to blah blah blah. Like, hey, you're going. You're going.
I could get like 90,000 points back, but we ended up going, and it was obviously it didn't work out for the Kansas City Chiefs. They got their asses kicked. But, like when we got down there, though, Justin, it wasn't like, I don't know I guess like my thoughts going into New Orleans with the Super Bowl is exactly what I said. I thought it was going to be, holy God, like every restaurant and bar is going to be wall to wall. It's going to be like, Bourbon Street and every other street in the French Quarter is going to be, 20 deep everywhere. And it's just going to be ridiculously stupid. Amateur hour, people just only coming for the Super Bowl and not really caring about New Orleans. I'm like, these are not the kind of people I really want to hang out with when I'm in New Orleans anyway. But that is not what I found when I went there. What did you think going into it, Justin? Did you think it was going to be like French Quarter Fest or something else like that?
I thought it was going to be bananas. I thought it was going to be one of those things, and I think we were prepping for that. We were prepping for like, this is not going to be your typical New Orleans experience. It's going to be a little, my big passion in sports is NFL football, obviously the Chiefs, and I love New Orleans, but we were like, this is going to be something completely different. So we're trying to find reservations and book reservations at places that we think would take him, because we were just pretty sure that was going to be impossible to get anywhere. Now, there were pockets where the NFL would hold the events, and I think this speaks to New Orleans' ability to hold big major events. But outside of those pockets that the NFL and the Super Bowl experience or broadcasting of the sports networks, it kind of felt just like normal New Orleans.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd be surprised, Peter, at how little the French Quarter was actually affected by the NFL coming in with the Super Bowl, which, I mean, there was obviously people wearing Chiefs and Eagles jerseys, and you could tell there were fans there. Now, let me preface this by saying the NFL does a great job of corralling their fans. Obviously, the people are not going necessarily. They might go because they know New Orleans is a party town, but they're going down there. What I figured out, they're going down there because they obviously just care about the football side of it. They might have a little fun going to this or that, but they're not planning their whole vacation around, you know what, we're going to walk the streets of the French Quarter and then, we'll hang out with the football on Sunday. No, it was like they did a great or horrible job, depending on what side of this you're on economically, of taking all the football fans and placing them in basically areas around the Caesars Superdome, because it's like that's where they had the fan experience, the fan fest stuff. They had a lot of stuff going on down there, whether it's, music events or, of course, every Super Bowl has the, join Shaq and he's going to be down here with, Jelly Roll over here, and there's all these different crazy concerts going on and stuff, but they were not in the French Quarter. They were in sort of, like I said, within the blocks around.
The Guy Fieri tailgate. Where was that at? That was.
Yeah, it was close to it was close to Caesars.
That's interesting that I didn't realize that it was that contained to but it does make sense because NFL makes it all about the fan experience, as you guys talked about. Now, I do have the question of how is it not just with the airport coming and going, but the getting from the airport? Because these are often in these cities where prices get jacked up, they long route people, all that kind of stuff. Was any issues with that, or was the airport for such a singular experience, were they overwhelmed?
Business as usual for me.
Definitely going there was the same. Definitely going there, arriving there on Friday was totally normal. Now, I don't know about you, Justin, but on Monday, I thought it was chaotic leaving. It was worse leaving because a lot of people were just jetting out of there.
I was either still drunk or blind hungover, so I don't remember that so much at all.
I was going to say, yeah, we could talk about why you got.
I'm lucky I got home. I'm lucky I got home.
Yeah, it was, but it was interesting, Peter, because I was shocked at how many people were just not in the French Quarter. And in fact, so much to the point that, when you're reading about going down there and I'm thinking, you see all these articles in every town that has a Super Bowl. But like I said, New Orleans has had it 10 times now. So there's all these articles about the economic impact and like everyone's bracing for it. Cause you got to understand, it's like you're going from, like the Sugar Bowl and New Year's Eve straight into Super Bowl. And then, by the way, right after that is Mardi Gras and Fat Tuesday and all this stuff is like all happening within like 2 months of each other. So they're like, they're ready for their biggest quarter of the year, I'm sure, in New Orleans. And man, it was like these stores that I go to closer to the canal side of French Quarter. I was walking in and there's like nobody in the stores. There's the restaurants that we were getting, the reservations at and trying to get tables at, they were like half full. You know, I mean, we went to our favorites like Muriel's and stuff, and I'm like, oh, and thank God we made these reservations early. Nah, could have walked in totally. And so I went into this one store that we go to a lot that Stacy likes to go to, and like, hey, how's gal's about a little younger than me maybe. I'm like, how's this weekend been? And she's like, to be honest with you, horrible. And she was like somewhat angry. She's like, I had a $500 day on the Friday before a Super Bowl, and she's like, that is horrible. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, this is literally, she's like 2 blocks from Canal, so she's on the side that's going to be closer to the Superdome, So I think I read
all the big hotels are.
Yeah, I know. I read a lot of fallout of that from all the people in the French Quarter thinking that, hey, this is going to be huge, to like, what a flop, didn't help us at all. And I think the problem is that the NFL just, when they take out, like when they put everything in weren't you in the convention center, Justin? Like
that's yeah.
I mean, when you quarter it all over there, that people that don't know and don't really care about being in New Orleans, they're eating at places right outside the convention center. They're not walking over to Muriel's or wherever,
Yeah, if you were just there to experience the Super Bowl and the NFL echo chamber, you could just stay in that echo chamber and not deviate from it at all, and have a full action-packed weekend, because they provided all kinds of different entertainment and stuff for you to do. So if you didn't want to walk around Royal Street or anything like that, you didn't. Like I said, there was no noticeable difference outside of those NFL, pockets where they had him perfectly staged and ready to go.
The only thing that really affected anything that we did was on Bourbon Street. It was interesting. It was sort of rainy, so it was the rain and the middle day. So you have the National Guard guys on every corner in the French Quarter. This is because of the Super Bowl, and also because of the stuff that happened on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
So you still have that presence everywhere. It's raining. They decide to fit Bourbon Street for about, I don't know how many blocks it was, Justin, 2 or 3, with this purple carpet, like completely covering Bourbon Street from gutter to gutter all the way down. Because in the middle of that, they plop down, a Fox studio there for Tom Brady and the like to be up there with their the analysts up on the stage. And it basically took their stage is so big, their set is so big, it's like from wall to wall. It was like, and they tried to cover it with like fencing around it so you don't have crazies running up there and stuff. And they were a little elevated, but like, you want to talk about bottlenecking on Bourbon Street. I mean, because all the girls are like, oh, it's Tom Brady. Everyone's going crazy. And like, you have, when Bourbon Street's really horrible and you're trying to find an escape route to the right or left when you're walking down the street, it was worse because it was like one way in, one way out. You're taking turns of like, it's a one-way street basically. So 10 people go this way, okay, then 10 more people go the other way. That was crazy, I thought, Justin.
Yeah, and then people want to take pictures because you're probably 20 feet away from Terry Bradshaw, Tom Brady, all those guys you see on TV every Sunday. So people are trying to slow down and take pictures, and it's just a log jam. That was a little tough to get through. I did get a really nice shot of Tom Brady from about 10 yards away, though. I'm pretty happy with.
Very good.
Well, I mean, that was right on Bourbon Street. I mean, they were obviously getting the feel of it for having that in the background of all their shots and stuff. But man, that really clogged up stuff. But for the most part, though, the other cool thing, Justin, is they had the laser light show on the cathedral.
Oh yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah.
No, you did send some pictures that did look very, very cool.
Yeah, I don't know if they do that everywhere, but what they did was they had these laser lights that basically the St. Louis Cathedral, it's basically, I don't know where, it was obviously stationed somewhere in Jackson Square where they had these things set up. And man, people were just, I guess they would, what was it, every half hour or something, Justin? They would just redo it.
So they kind of have it. It's really hard to explain. So there's like 3 different projection cameras, and it was almost like not a slideshow, but like how would you describe it, Goff? I don't even know how to.
Yeah, it's like just just an animated. It's an animation that they throw up there, and they have it perfect. I guess what they had done is they had went and measured every nook and cranny of the cathedral and all the other surrounding buildings around it, and they had like measured it to like the inch, to where they had this cutout of their lasers, and obviously the precision of having to probably focus and move in and out to get it perfect. But they had it directly on the lines of the entire building. So they would play highlights of, Super Bowl highlights on there, along with just like special made, like sort of New Orleans themed, colorful pattern things on there. It's very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. And I'd never seen anything like it. It was pretty amazing. And then like one side would be Eagles, the other side would be Chiefs. And then the music was playing, and it was pretty surreal. I thought it was a pretty unique experience.
Yeah,
That's
it
cool.
was that, but
Well,
that
they
was
got that down there, and especially in that area right there.
Yeah.
That was only one of a few things, though, that I can really say were centric to the Super Bowl in the French Quarter, though. There just wasn't much else there to draw fans to, hey, come over here and check out all the businesses. I didn't think there was.
It'd be an interesting economic study. It'd be fairly complicated, but to see, you doing this repeated with each day. But if Kansas City and Philadelphia actually profited it more than New Orleans did from the Super Bowl. As far as you think about all the T-shirt sales and all the bars, because all the bars were full here all over the city.
Yeah. And we went to Union Station before we left, the weekend before, where they're having the big rallies and stuff, and people were just packed in Union Station like you wouldn't believe, and the surrounding area around there as well.
Yeah.
Now, when you look up stuff because I was looking up this earlier, and you talk about economic impact of this year's Super Bowl to New Orleans, they said, well, it's most likely going to bring 300 to 500 million to the town, depending on what happens that year. It also said hotels are 100% occupancy, restaurants, bars, and shops in the French Quarter and Central Business District experienced record-breaking sales. But I don't think that's true. I don't think it was when it was all said and done. And I think everyone was sort of shocked by that. I don't remember the last time they had a Super Bowl in New Orleans. I think it was at least 10 years ago, probably. But I would like to see the difference between how that one was held, because I think the corporatization of the NFL has just increased year after year to where they bring in the mothership, they land it where they want, and there's very few strays. I just think that's how it works.
Yeah, it's the traveling roadshow, man. They set up their tent, and that's where you're going.
That's a great example of how that all gets played out.
I think it's interesting that New Orleans to me is, I understand why Miami's big, but if you're just talking about, of course, like the Chiefs want to get a new stadium so they can have the possible Super Bowl in Kansas City. And, all these other people are sort of teased with, the Vegas just got it. They're teased with, hey, if you get a brand new Super Bowl with a roof, depending on where you're at, you can have a Super Bowl. And I think that's cool. I think it's cool to sort of, although I don't like, if the Super Bowl is in Kansas City and the Chiefs weren't involved in it, I don't know how many people in Kansas City were like, I'm just going just to go. It's the Eagles versus the Chargers or whatever. I don't know if they'd even go to that. People just fly in for it. But gosh, New Orleans is such the perfect place to have a Super Bowl because it's just everything. You don't need a car. You don't need anything. You just walk everywhere. Miami, you have the beach. I understand that you have this. They've had a Super Bowl in the north a few times, and I'm just like, I can't even believe it compares. It's just, it doesn't.
Yeah, Miami is more spread out than people think. You either gotta have a car, or you gotta have someone. You gotta pay to ride.
Sure. But the allure of the beach and the sun is going to, the fun nightlife down there and stuff. I get it, but especially the time of year that the Super Bowl is. But I don't know. What do you think, Justin? What's a better town than New Orleans theoretically? Vegas, I guess, is up there now, but that's, you got stuff to do, of course.
There's very few cities that can kind of infrastructure wise and just logistically handle a major event like the Super Bowl. And New Orleans, and I'd say probably Vegas and maybe LA, but LA is really spread out too. Yeah. Just like Miami. So I think probably New Orleans and Las Vegas would be the only two that I think would probably give you the best experience depending on what you're looking for. Vegas probably fits more with that NFL corporate experience than New Orleans does.
It does, definitely, because you have everything there is just so shiny, new, corporate anyway. Everything there is just so high end. The NFL is obviously moving to, and you see this in baseball now, just tickets in general. If you go see a ticket to a Super Bowl is considered cheap now if it's under like $3,500. And it's just going to keep going up. and Vegas was is a perfect place for those kind of people to imbibe if they're going to be dropping that kind of cash. I mean, that's just what it is.
Yeah, I remember like before, like me and Wyatt were like, okay, what's our cap on trying to get tickets to the Super Bowl when we get down there? Can it be? Are we talking like $2,000? Can we go $2,500 per? Thank God we didn't actually pull that off.
That would have been the worst game to go to as a
Good Lord. Good Lord.
You would have been so angry. You would have been thinking of everything you could have bought with that money.
I'd have walked up to the nearest living thing and punched it in the mouth.
Yeah, no, but we haven't gotten to the main event though, because Justin and Wyatt had decided that they wanted to. Of course, we had made reservations to a couple places, and we didn't want to make too many, things like normal in New Orleans. We don't want to book our entire trip there, but we were like, they were talking about it more than me because I was still waffling on going in general. So they're like, hey, we found a place called Mambo's on Bourbon Street. I'd never been there before. That they're selling tickets for $150 a pop, and for that you got basically an open bar, a New Orleans buffet, and seating to watch the game. And it's right in Bourbon Street. So if you're not going to the game and dropping thousands of dollars, this was an option. And we bought tickets for that. And going into that, I think we were all sort of like, I've never been there before. I don't know. It looked nice. To Mambo's credit, it's a nice place. I don't know if it's a place that I would ever go to when I'm there, just because it's a little bit more like, I don't know, corporate-y to me. It's like there's a lot of places like that. It feels like it's like a nicer and TGI Fridays type play. I don't know how to compare it, but it's nice. It's not a shot at it. It's just not what I'm usually at the Dives, not a place like this. But why don't you? But just
it had a real floor.
It had a real floor. It was shiny. I'm not used to these things down there. No, Justin, tell me about how. So you went about trying to get tickets for all of us to this because it had sold out at Mambo's, and Justin was very concerned about being able to watch this game up close. So how did you take care of this, Justin?
So we'd already got our tickets, right? But the seating was a little off. So we went. I don't know if you were with us when we went to scout it out, or if that was.
I was not there. So it's open seating. It's open.
Yeah, open seating. Yeah. So we were like, well, let's go check this place out. We're probably late morning because I think we had our nice brunch and we were heading over there. I was like, let's just kind of scope it out, see if we can find a spot. And so I start talking to the guy who's in charge of the operation there, who's going to be running it. He takes us upstairs. He shows us everything. And I was like, hey man, how much is it going to take just from me to you to kind of save us this spot right up here up front? And he was like, I don't know, like, I think he said 400. I said 100, and we sell it $200. So I'm like, all right. So I peel off $200 for the guy. He's like, all right, I got you taken care of, man. Everything's gonna be great. Blah 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 blah. I'm like, all right. Well, to hell with it. It's $200. We're gonna have right up here in the front row. Mm-hmm. And then so we show up in plenty of time. I see my guy, and this is no knock on Mambo's necessarily, but it's freaking chaos. I mean, everybody's like walking, running, and trying to get in line, and you got people from Philadelphia there, which is inherently means they're fucking rude as hell.
That's true.
Yeah. And so they're arguing about this, and I should be here, and blah blah blah. But my guy's like, I still got you. And he didn't have us. I gave him $200. So these barking hens from Philly, get up there before us for somehow, and they take that front row seat, and I go up and I'm trying to find my guy, and it's chaos. And they're like, hey, these are supposed to be for us. Like, so we found a nice little section to the side of it. We still had pretty decent seats, but I was out $200.
So
unfortunate.
Yeah, not the best decision. Not the best decision ever made.
So it was a nice gesture for Justin to try to help the game.
Make people everybody happy.
And my interpretation of this, Peter, was my wife and I were like, let's stay here at Fritzl's and keep drinking because they're going like 2 hours early to like try to get these seats. And we know it's either not going to work or it's going to work. So whatever. So we just stayed at Fritzl's the whole time. And at Fritzl's, we were talking to plenty of like Eagles fans. That's when I saw the most like Eagles fans. I think, frankly, I don't think a lot of people, we came there Friday morning and I don't think a lot of people got to the Super Bowl till Saturday afternoon. They flew in that day and they're flying out Monday morning. So that's why Friday was sort of dead to a degree. But we're like, so we walk up there and it is chaotic. I can see that since nothing was numbered and like everyone wants to seat by the big screen so they can get there, be right next to it. I can see why there's, you had to check in and then you make a mad dash up the stairs or in the elevator to get these seats or whatever. And so we walk in and then we get our little wrist bracelet or whatever. We go upstairs and I look at the seats that I know Justin said he had gotten, and there's a bunch of Eagles idiots there. I'm like, oh God, he's somewhere pissed off. So I look to the side. He's over on the side with the rest of the gang over there.
You remember those old Black Friday videos where people are rushing in to get the 50-inch TV for $100? That's kind of what it was like. Is everybody fighting and trying to smash to get up there? It's it's 3-4 hours for the game. Everybody's like, I need a spot. And I'm like, I'm playing it cool because I think I got my spot. I'm like, oh, we're good. And we get up there, we don't have our spot.
Yeah. So there's all these the Eagles fans there. So we sit to the side, and needless to say, pretty early on, and Mambo's was great. They had a nice, it's buffet pita that you would expect for that kind of money. It's not overly expensive. So you're gonna get jambalaya, you get some gumbo, you get some red beans and rice. They had a couple good. It was fine. It was all fine for what it was, and their bar. They had the bar was not just all well drinks. It was good. But there was the when I got home and I told everybody the story of, so this is how it went. So, I like the Chiefs, but Strider and Wyatt, or Justin and Wyatt, love the Chiefs. Okay. So I want the Chiefs to win, but they really want to win. So anyway, so the Eagles fans that were already annoying, any time that Jalen Hurts or the Eagles would make a good play, they're like, yeah, Eagles, Eagles. Eagles. They would do that every annoying time. So then to counteract that, anytime the Chiefs would do something, I look over and Justin's like, yeah, that's right, Chiefs. Yeah, let's go, Chiefs. Every single time. And I'm like, I look at my wife this is opening quarter. What's going to happen when I don't know what's going to happen in the game at this point, but I'm like, this is going to go possibly bad. It's Strider and Justin, if he has if he's going to start, making sure that he can, and he handles his liquor well. I mean, he once drank a fifth here and drove home, but he can. But I'm like, it's the alcohol combined with the over emotions of wanting the Chiefs to three-peat. This could lead to major problems. So after that first quarter, the Chiefs were just getting their asses kicked, and my wife and I were like, hey, let's go back. So we left. And we went down Bourbon Street, which was, I could have shot a cannon and not hurt anybody. There was nobody on Bourbon Street, man. They're either at the game or watching the Super Bowl somewhere else. We go to Fritzl's. They were supposed to have the band was supposed to start playing at 9. It's 8:57 at this point, and there's me and Stacy walk in, and we're the only ones there. And the band's back there yeah, I think we're going to start playing a little later. I'm like, yeah, no kidding. There's nobody here except the bartender. And so we stayed there for 5 minutes. They have one TV in the corner that looks like it's on rabbit ears, so it looked crap. So we left. And so that night I was like, I can't wait to hear what happened with Justin and Wyatt at this party, because we were getting our asses kicked, and I know they're pissed. So, but I guess you didn't get any altercations. You didn't go to jail or anything.
No, the only thing that saved us is that the Chiefs didn't have that very many at all positive plays. So I didn't even get a chance to counteract, oh yeah, well we didn't do that. Oh yeah, the Eagles just scored another time. Oh, we didn't do nothing, so I couldn't even talk any trash because we were just getting beat all the holy hell.
Yeah.
You sat there quietly and took it.
No, I did not. No, I did not. And I will say this for the Eagle fans that were in attendance, and I do business with people in Philly, and I was telling this to a story of a guy that I do business with there, and I was the Eagle fans that were there were actually halfway decent. They were they were rooting for their team, and they weren't I was like, oh, somebody's just going to start talking, real trash to me, and I'm going to get hot, and then it's just going to get ugly. We're going to have to brawl out of here. Me, Wyatt, and our 5-foot tall wives. That's our assets. So we're gonna try to figure out how to get out of this mess. And then, but they were oh, they're just cheering their teams. I was talking to a couple of them at a bar. I was actually started talking to the old hens who took my front row seat, And I was like, oh, you guys are just kicking the shit out of us. They're like, oh, but you guys, we're real nervous because you guys could come back from anything, blah, 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 blah. So I was telling my friend this in Philly. He was like, well, what you got there is that high class of Philly fan, the fan that can actually afford to go down to New Orleans and, pay for, airline tickets and hotels. True. So that's not your normal Philly fan. Your normal Philly fan, you'd probably been up in, in jail or the hospital or both.
Yeah, because as Philly fans, as sports fans, Justin, we know that Phillies fans are more like the fans you see at ECW back in the day, or fans you see at the Wing Fest, which they stopped having, the Wing Bowl, the Wing Fest there, because, I mean, these people, like the most disgusting stories I ever heard on Howard Stern was when Richard Christie, one of the regulars on that show, went to Wing Fest, which was it was an annual event in Philadelphia, and like people were just not only fighting and getting so drunk, but they were like pooping and peeing everywhere. And it was just like a disgusting, like Woodstocky type, like horrible situation. They canceled it for the rest of the time. So these are the people, like when you don't succeed in Philadelphia, I mean, obviously we have an example in Kansas City. They thought Andy Reid sucked. So like then he came to Kansas City and he's done a couple of things, but I understand at that point, maybe you're like, you just need a different coat of paint. You just need new surroundings. But they're brutal sports fans. Typically, they are.
If you live in a city where you got to grease down your light poles in your city to keep people from fighting up and destroying stuff, you might reevaluate what you are as a community. That's my only take in on it.
I mean, now, Peter, like when the Chiefs win stuff here in the Royals, I mean, I know there was a handful of arrests, but we didn't start burning down our own town and lighting dumpsters on fire, did we?
No.
I mean, you'd be there, you'd know.
Yes. No, nothing to that level. And nothing like when in my past life of living in Chicago for many years, when the Bulls win, they would burn all sorts of stuff in that city too. Never to that level here.
Yeah.
Crazy. Let's destroy our town. That's a hockey thing too. Hockey teams do that all the time. Just Canadian hockey teams like burn everything down. It's crazy. But I thought it was I never want to go there again for a Super Bowl, and it has nothing to do with the town.
Let me tell you how the rest of my night went here at Mambo's before we wrap it up. Yeah. So we're just taking a beating of a lifetime here. So I'm going to take my beating like a man, and that means stone cold drunk. So I walk up to the bar and I'm drinking, it wasn't all like, lower shelf booze. They had Maker's Mark, which is a decent bourbon.
Sure.
So I was like, give me a double Maker's, just pour it as tall as you can. She's like, sir, we can only serve singles, just because it's an open bar, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. So I get the bright idea and I'm looking over and there's Wyatt and Angela, his wife, and my lovely wife, Lily. And I'm like, okay, well, you see those three people there? I need 4 singles because I'm taking them for the table. So I grab them and I grab the 4 singles and I bring it to the table and I just pour them all into one big glass for myself. And my wife is like, afterwards, the next day or two, she's like, I don't know how many times you do that, but by the time I started counting, you were at like 4. And I know you probably did it at least 3 times before I started counting. That marks the only time in New Orleans. Like my wife was like, getting you home and getting you in bed and everything ready to go was like a chore. I was I didn't know if we were going to make it. And that marks the only time that's happened to me in New Orleans.
Well, the fact that you remember any of the day is a good sign.
Yeah, it was a photo finish, Pete. It was photo finish.
That's funny when you say the 4 singles is 1 drink. That's like an arrow pour.
Yeah.
True.
No, but like I thought it was cool. Like I would want to go. So when I covered sports for a living, I was in broadcasting, and I got to cover the Royals winning World Series and going to 2. I missed all the Chiefs stuff, missed all their glory of Patrick Mahomes. So I never got to go to a Super Bowl. So I would like to go to one, but it's one of those things, Peter, I cannot justify like $3,000 to $5,000 to watch a game that's filled with commercial timeouts. And I can't do it.
Yeah.
But it was cool.
That's for like bare minimum seats.
Oh God. That's you're begging them to get that low. Yeah, you're begging. But it's cool to be in the town, and it's obviously I don't need much of an excuse to go to New Orleans, and it was a great, the three-peat was something that Chiefs fans really wanted, and so to actually watch the Super Bowl, I cannot think of watching it in a better town than New Orleans. It's just set up for stuff like that. It is,
and the city's a wonderful host. I mean, they did a great job.
You did Fan Fest, right? You and Wyatt went to actual sponsored events.
Yeah, we went to the Fan Fest, and we really got into they had a bunch of stuff in the Hall of Fame, a lot of history and all that. And we would probably still be there if our wives weren't so bored and telling us to get the hell out, because we, they had all this old, just old history stuff, like shoes of old famous players and flyers and old
traveling museum.
Yeah, it's a traveling museum, and it really got deep into that. And we were just probably sitting there for an hour and a half, and we really realized that our wives weren't with us anymore, and they were kind of sitting in the corner looking for the wine bar, and we're like, they're giving us the office. We got to get out of here. We got to go. But that was a great experience. It was really fun. But around every corner they'd have and here's your Super Bowl jersey for $400. Buy it now.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, but that's okay.
That was the problem. I wanted to buy a shirt, but if the Chiefs were going to get their ass kicked, which they did, I would never wear that shirt. So I'm like, I need to wait for the winter shirt.
I bought a Super Bowl football that just had both teams' logos in. It was like the Super Bowl, whatever it was, Chiefs and Eagles. So it didn't indicate winner or loser, but it just kind of memorized the event. So I was like, that's pretty cool. I'll put that on display sometime. Because I was the same way. I didn't want to buy a Chiefs Super Bowl jersey or shirt or anything if they're going to lose. So,
what were some other event options?
Oh, like Guy Fieri had his. We were looking at going to that, his big barbecue tailgate thing. I can't remember who he had. Was Jelly Roll at that? I can't remember.
Yeah,
who that was.
God, they all had musical events. Shaquille O'Neal had an event there.
Shaq.
There was
Flavor Flav was at that.
Yeah. Yeah, there was they had a bunch of interesting stuff. Some at theaters, some around just places that were there. Gosh, there was one that was in a theater that was right. I guess it was Shaq's that I was like, you could actually go to these things, and it costs a decent amount of money. But just celebrity filled stuff that is always around these events. But there was a ton of those. But yeah, I remember our friend Jeremy really wanted to go to the Guy Fieri one, and there was. I don't know if he was the only chef there or not, but he was the one that they were going to go see. I guess you never got to do that.
No, there was the VIP experience for $100, but I think that thing was miles and miles away. I don't remember where we even had it at, but it was a pretty big half-day commitment to get there, and we just didn't want to make that commitment for
not enough time.
Yeah.
So outside of Brady and Bradshaw, did you guys see anybody famous or actually run into anybody?
Yeah, Rob Riggle.
Any randoms?
Yeah, Rob Riggle. We went to the Super Bowl parade. Goff, you passed on that too. I think you were.
True. I did.
So we were at the Super Bowl parade, and they're throwing out beads and everything. And then this one bus comes along, and I think it's the DraftKings bus. And guy throws me points at me because I had a Andy Reid Chiefs Tommy Bahamas shirt on, and he's like, "Hey!" And he throws me a different type of bead. It's not your generic one, but it had the Super Bowl logo. And as it's in the air, I kind of catch it, and I look at him, and it's Rob Riggle, who in Kansas, he's a famous actor, but he's a Kansas Cityan too. And he's like, "That's awesome!" And I look at my buddy White. I was like, "My God, I just caught some beads from Rob Riggle. There he is, right there, waving at us." So that was probably the coolest part of the weekend for me. But other than him, those were the only guys I saw that were famous.
The one that I saw in Mambo's, we saw a couple times, but Rex Ryan was down there. Analyst, former coach of the NFL, Rex Ryan, with his big old chiclet,
his old teeth.
Oh, his teeth are the size of refrigerator doors. Yeah, they're just huge. Panels, and he's got a foot fetish, that guy. So I was just seeing how many girls in sandals he was checking out. But I stopped counting at 30.
Put my foot in his mouth.
But he was eating downstairs at Mambo's. So I mean,
was he really? No shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he was down there when I walked upstairs. It's there. That is interesting. If you hang around enough, Peter, as you know, and you're in an event area like that, you're going to see some people walking in and out of places. Now, Bourbon Street's probably not. If unless you want to be seen by people, that's not the place you're going to be hanging out at. But But it's a tight knit place, and I think it's the coolest place to have a Super Bowl. I thought it was, and there's a reason why they will continue to have them down there all the time. But yeah, I thought it was a fun time. If you ever, I don't know when the next one's going to be. I'm assuming the next 5 to 10 years, New Orleans will host another one, and it is a great introduction to the city. If you have another event like that, if you're on the verge of like, hey, I don't really know if I want to go down there, but I have another reason to go, this is a great reason to do it. And it was fun. They had a good time, despite the Chiefs beatdown. So
yeah, it was all fun to kick off. It was awesome time.
But I was going
downhill immediately.
I was going for drinks and food anyway. So I mean, it was the football game was also there. But yeah, we had a great time. Anything else, Peter?
No, I think you answered. It was great. It felt like I was just had a seat on the tour bus and just got to ask some good questions. So.
Yeah, no, I think it was a good time had by all, except again the outcome. Like we all said that it was a great trip, except for the outcome. But anyway, and I didn't get to see a fight. I thought maybe I left. I sort of left. I left my wingman. I would have. Yeah. If you would have gotten
he bounced out. Oh, good Lord.
It was horrible. I'm glad I did. It was a horrible game. But anyway, thanks for joining us on this Super Bowl episode of NOLA Outsider. Check us out at nolaoutsider.com and give us a 5-star review. I noticed someone did this past week. Thank you for that.
Thanks, Mom.
Anywhere that you see our podcast, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, we're on all those. We'll see you next time here on NOLA Outsider.
Hey.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to the NOLA Outsider podcast. We'd love to hear about your experiences in the greatest city in the world. Email us at outsidernola@gmail.com. Also, check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/NOLA Outsider or visit nolaoutsider.com. See you next time on NOLA Outsider.